I'm not going to lie. I could spend this entire video simply talking about the way that this thing looks. I mean, the F Type was gorgeous when it came out in 2014, and that was 8 years ago, and 8 years on, it still looks gorgeous. The F Type is kind of like the Kate Beckinsale of cars. It's sort of a timeless, ageless design that somehow defies the passage of time and still breaks necks and drops jaws wherever it goes.
What's this?
But just like you're probably not going to see Underworld 7, Why Is This Still Happening, just because Kate Beckinsale is in it.
But that was many years later.
Are you likely to buy an F Type over the competition simply because it's a Jag? Well, let's talk about that for a minute. What's going on, everyone? Jax here, and today I am with the Jaguar F Type R. Of course, we have to start with the styling because it is 2022 and this thing still looks aces. I dig the sort of restyled front end with the thinner headlights. It's a good update of what was already a fantastic design, and the sort of muscular rear haunches still look as stunning now as they did 8 years ago. The sort of body lines in profile, both in coupe and convertible form, are somehow sort of muscular and sensual at the same time. Kind of like Gina Carano, except when she opens her mouth or tries to act.
I'm in.
I feel like this Jaguar F Type is sort of one of those few types of cars that can pull off a color like this bronzy brown. It just kind of works. It looks more elegant and elevated for some reason. With black accents to boot, they're mixing brown and black in a light-colored convertible top, and it's so good looking that it all just kind of gels. I mean, if you're only interested in style and you're desperate to spend over $110,000, well, like, this is probably your top choice. And the good news continues under the hood because the Jaguar F Type R is powered by a 5-liter V8, making 575 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque, all running through a quick-shifting ZF 8-speed automatic and being distributed to the ground through all-wheel drive. Of course, it has a rear bias because this is a Jag. This model also has a dynamic adaptive suspension, upgraded performance brakes, and perhaps most importantly, an electronic rear torque vectoring differential. And if you're wondering why that's important and you've never heard of an F Type, it's because the F Type has a kind of well-earned reputation over the years for being a bit of a handful, especially early rear-wheel drive variants, which were prone to lots and lots of oversteer, and not the good kind, the crashy kind. However, the addition of all-wheel drive, as well as this more advanced rear differential, seems to have quelled some of those problems. For more on the F Type's on-road behavior, tune into my Behind the Wheels segment, where we're going to talk about that in depth. Unfortunately, I didn't have a chance to actually thrash it, mainly because I was driving on normal roads, and this is a $120,000 press car, and I didn't want to turn it into a tin can. Oh, and the hood opens backwards, which is always cool. I'm a little biased because I'm a Corvette guy and they do that too, but yeah. This F Type R is equipped with the sort of extended leather package, which covers pretty much everything from the armrests up in sumptuous British leather with contrasting stitching. It feels expensive, because it is expensive. And it definitely contributes to the F-Type's sort of luxurious British pretensions. I mean, it feels legitimately great in here. Now, I'm not gonna lie, kind of lower than those armrest lines, there's, you know, some harder plastic, maybe a little harder than I would expect in a $120,000 car. But the leather that you are encountering is pretty great. Also, at 6'6", I barely fit inside, but I do fit. And these seats, which I thought at first glance were not going to be comfortable, are actually quite comfortable. They look and feel special, and their comfort surprised me because they're relatively firm and they're kind of thin shells, but they're awesome. They also hold me in place really well, but I don't think you'd want to be a larger individual in this car. There's a nice looking digital gauge cluster with configurable sort of side screens, as well as a 10-inch infotainment display and a Meridian audio system, which sounds pretty good for a small convertible. You also get a heated steering wheel. Only. And that brings me to some of the bummers, because direct sun completely washes out the displays. You can't see anything of the infotainment display or the gauge cluster, honestly, in direct sunlight, as well as the climate controls. Their digital readouts are all but invisible. The infotainment screen also feels about a generation behind, and it's a little laggy too. I mean, not like I complain about most screens being laggy. I mean, it's laggy, like laggy. Also, 120 grand doesn't get you the following items: adaptive cruise control, heated seats, a head-up display, heated seats, a surround view camera, or heated freaking seats. Look, I know once you cross the $50,000 barrier, some automakers get kind of weirdly a la carte with their options, but no heated seats in a convertible from Britain seems like a bit of an oversight. And there was a front parking sensor that was convinced that there was always something in front of it. And when I asked the blind spot monitoring system if someone was in my blind spot, it constantly responded, even when there was nothing in my blind spot but air. All that aside, let's look at the competitors for a second, because at this F-Type R's as-tested price of $120,000, well, you've got some options. The base 911 Carrera 4 costs about the same as this Jaguar F Type R, but has 200 fewer buff horses under the hood. The Lexus LC 500 convertible is about $10,000 or $15,000 less, but it's not as dynamically satisfying. The Mercedes AMG GT convertible costs about $10,000 more, and the upcoming Mercedes SL, the new one, is probably around the same price and promises to be, I'm sure, a technological feast. The BMW 8 Series convertible sort of straddles this F-Type R, with the regular 8 Series being 10 to 15 grand less, and the M8 convertible being about 10 or 15 grand more. But it's a much larger car than this F-Type R, so it's playing to a little bit different crowd. Probably. So should you buy a Jaguar F Type R? Well, that's a tough question, mainly because the 911 exists. Look, I know the Carrera 4 is down about 200 horsepower to this F Type R, but it's probably a better daily driver, and it has, Porsche's 911's legendary handling to boot. I think this is the car for you if you're okay with some of the compromises. You're okay with missing a few of the options and the sort of tech features being not as comprehensive as they might be on some of the competition. Because you're really looking to make more of a fashion statement, and my God, this is a fashion statement. At the end of the day, this is an achingly pretty car that has personality in spades and an exhaust note that certainly doesn't hurt. It definitely gives it a few bonus points. As a side note, this experience made me appreciate Jaguar more as a brand, mainly because this is the first Jag that I've ever driven, and I really like the emphasis on the sort of driving experience and the sensation of driving. that there was a sort of joy to be found in the act and the sort of tactile sensations of the beautiful leather interior and the steering, which was very quick and communicative. Remember to go check out that driving video. I like that the Jaguar sort of brought out that kind of joy in driving. There's something to be said for that, especially as an enthusiast dad, which is the whole point of this channel. And it might be enough to help some of you look past the car's flaws and really kind of distill it down into what this F-Type is all about. Experience, joy, and drop-dead gorgeous sheet metal. And because if we're being honest, at this price point past $100,000, there are a lot of automakers whose products have their own, we'll say, eccentricities or obvious flaws that the fanboys tend to overlook or ignore. Unless, of course, you like BMWs, because they're ugly as shit. Guys, thanks so much for watching. Thanks for being here. I hope you enjoyed this review. I know that this car is a lot of money, and on my channel, we tend to deal in more practical vehicles, but this opportunity was fantastic. The F-Type R really is loads of fun, and it has so much character, and I really enjoyed getting to experience it, and I hope it brought you some value. I hope if you're in the market for one, maybe this provided some clarity, or if you bought something else. I'd love to hear why. What do you think of Jaguar? Personally, I kind of want to see this brand do a little bit better now. I've always been kind of indifferent to Jaguar, and now having experienced this one, I'd like to see more of them. So I hope you'll tune in. Maybe I'll get to see some more of them. Until next time, ride safe and drive safe, and I will catch you in the next review. All right, peace. Because it is 2022 and this thing still looks aces. There's literally a family right next to me. Take a hint. Literally sitting here trying to film, and now there's heavy equipment moving all over the place. It's like 6 o'clock on a Thursday. What are you doing? I hate every one of you. Look, I know once you cross the 50, oh God, a motorcycle, of course. I'm gonna murder everybody at the park. This video is gonna take a dark turn. Why'd you come to the park to ride your Harley? Anyway, I mean, actually, I know why. I know why. Yes, just drive around me. I'm gonna stand in the middle of the road and I'm gonna make you drive around me. Why? Because I have a Jag.